All right, so team, welcome to QA plus manual testing orientation session. So typically what we do and how do we do this particular sessions, you will get a clear understanding of through this particular orientation session. So we all know QA is something that stands for quality assurance, and it's not just about understanding quality assurance, but how do we do the manual testing. So if you look at some of the main topics that I'm going to cover through these 12 plus orientation, the 12 plus detailed live training sessions are, the first session that we will understand is that what are the fundamentals of QA, like, typically what is software testing is all about, what is the difference between, people keep using this quality assurance, quality control. So we'll quickly understand the difference between these two, and we'll see where does the software testing fits in the world of software. Then we'll now onwards, once we understand those fundamental definitions of QA, software testing, what is the importance of testing, why we should do, pretty much we all aware of it in today's world, the importance of testing, but we'll just re-emphasize on that. Once we understand, then we will focus on a practical approach. So what we do at IT Learn is that anything that we try to train is through a project approach. So we'll typically take a live project, a project that's already associated with the IT Learn, and then we will see how do we write the test cases when you join. So what you should do is, if you have any questions, just put me in the chat. I will be taking up at the logical times. For example, if something very relevant that what I'm currently discussing, I'll be immediately answering. Otherwise, we'll answer at the end of the session. So just put it in the chat if you have any questions. So typically when you join as a QA member or a test engineer, there are different designations people call it as, be it a QA engineer, test engineer. Some people call it as ST, software test engineer. Some people call it as SDET, software development engineer in test, whatever it is. We will see, you will be primarily writing the test cases. That is your first deliverable. So how to write these test cases, on what basis we will be writing the test cases, if I'm writing the test cases, what are all I should cover in that. Typically you will be writing the test steps. How do you execute, how do you test a particular feature, how do you test a particular user story in today's of agile world. So we'll talk about how to write those test cases, how do you write expected result, how do you get the actual result and then matched with your expected and actual. Then you will be able to decide whether that particular test case is passed or failed, is your primarily deliverable that you when you join as a QA member in any organization. So once you understand, then you will go about actually testing of it. So what we do here also, same thing. Whatever the test cases that we write in the first 2 to 3 sessions, primarily around 2 complete sessions, I would say, and then I'll give you a couple of examples that you can do at home and you can come up with writing test cases. Then we'll come back on probably third or fourth day. We'll see how we execute those test cases on the application that we have written. And while executing those test cases, you will definitely encounter certain issues. People call it as issues, defects, bugs, errors. There are different names to it. So we'll, throughout the sessions, we'll understand what is the difference in all these words. But typically you can call it them now, something is going wrong in the application. Something is not working as expected by the customer in the application. So that you can call it as a defect. So you will identify some defects in the application. And once you identify your defects in the application, the immediate thing that you have to do is notifying your counterpart team, which is nothing but the development team. But you cannot just go and talk to them and say, hey, I found this particular defect and all, because in real time situations may be different, that development may be sitting in a different geographic location, you may be sitting in a different geographic location. So what happens in real time is that there will be a defect tracking tool that will be used, which will be like a central repository for all the engineers of that particular project. Typically in any project you will find different engineers, like project manager, development team, testing team. operations or support team, etc. So they all should know what kind of defects that you found it. So we will see how to log those issues or defects during the QA fundamental training. We'll discuss it how do you log manually. But when we next sessions, we will start with Jira. So that's when we will see how do you write all these things in a tool, writing the test cases, writing the defects and everything through a Jira tool. So here typically you'll understand a very important concepts like not every defect is of same criticality or complexity. You may find some issues which are very simple issues, very easy and not very complex. Sometimes you may find very critical ones to the business. If you would have not found those issues, that would be a big impact to your customer. So you will find critical complex issues during your testing. How do we differentiate them? So we'll differentiate with something called severity, and then how important to customer will represent with something called priority. And in the world of defects, some of the defects may be consistently reproducible, and some of them just occur once when you're testing, and how much ever your time you spend it and try to repro, you may not be able to repro them. So we'll see what is the nature of the defects that you will find, whether it is a reproducible, non-reproducible. All this information is very important for the development team to take any decision or to fix it. So your job is identifying all the issues in the software, reporting to the development team with the clear steps. How did you get, where did you get, and what is the error that you get, so that the development team can fix it. If at all anybody has any misunderstanding that you our test team is going to fix them, no, you're not going to fix those defects, but you should have a good attitude to break the software, typically to identify the problems in the software, loopholes in the software. For that, you will be doing a positive, negative testing, in the entire features, so that to identify the problems. And throughout the course, you'll also understand something called defect triage meeting. So what exactly defect triage meeting is? That when you find a defect, uh, you know, you keep on logging them into a defect tracking tool, probably daily or alternative day. Development lead, test lead, and your project manager will sit together and look at those defects, whether they are really issues. If it is an issue, then what is the severity, what is the priority? So all those things they will decide, and they will prioritize which one to fix first, which one to fix next, etc. So they will take a call through this particular defect triage meeting is the primary thing that's going to happen. We will see all these in a practical approach through the application or a project that we are going to walk through. The next one is, you will definitely face through many challenges during your testing. It could be that to write your test cases, sometimes requirements may not be very clear from the business, right? So how do you approach in that scenario? Okay, if the requirements are clear, probably the design is not clear, then how do you take a call in that particular scenario? If the requirement design is clear, when you are writing the test cases, the requirements are so complex, sometimes there is a lot of business logic involved. So how do you overcome all those challenges during your project, and what kind of an analysis that you have to do? And there are already proven some of the testing methodologies, like a black box testing techniques that you can we will be discussing, which you can utilize. Some of them, like boundary value analysis, equal class partitioning, state transition techniques. So there are different techniques available which will ease out our job that you can utilize. And along with that, not just about the testing part, but you'll face different challenges, communicating your defect. For other side of the engineering team, the defect that you say, it does not really look like a defect at all for the developer. So how do you convince that it is a developer? How do you convince that it is really going to be a problem to the customer if we deliver the software as it is with these issues? So convincing them, understanding them, and getting the issues that are you identify them get fixed, you will face through a lot of challenges. So we'll look at what are those things. Once we understand some of the practical aspects of it, how do you write test cases, how do you execute them, how do you log the defects and everything, we'll deal with one of the important concept that you should definitely be aware of in today's world is the agile software development lifecycle. So we'll typically introduce what is software development lifecycle altogether, and there is a classic even used in today's world, which is introduced about 30 years back, 1970s or 40 years back, is called waterfall model. But even today, some of the projects will be used. But you definitely might have heard about complete, most of the companies are adapting or started already adapting this methodology called agile methodology. So we'll understand what is the difference between these two, waterfall and agile, and how the testing used to happen in the classic waterfall model, and how the testing that is going to happen in today's world of agile. So typically this is the main point. So we'll compare the traditional testing to agile testing. How do you plan your agile testing? What is the role of the tester? And there are four different testing quadrants that the agile team has come up. Because typically the quick difference which I can give you at this moment is that around 2 years back, if you consider any of the projects 2 3 years back, most of them used to be half yearly projects, yearly projects. Least to least, it used to be a quarterly project. So we used to run quarterly projects like August quarter, February quarter, something like that. So quarter is typically a 3 months of project that we used to run, and within the 3 months you will have sufficient time to do requirements understanding, design, then go about coding by the developers, testing by the testing team, then sending it for the users for verification, then putting into production. So there, it was all used to be in a very kind of a leisure, and you used to have a sufficient time to do all those activities. But when we talk about agile, the meaning of agile is like a quick or a faster delivery. Today's world, 3 months is a big time for any customer, because if you consider any type of business, be it any enterprise related business, customer relationship management related applications like CRM applications, or any programmings that are related to tax calculations, real estate applications, anything that you consider, 3 months is a big time, because things are changing very very dynamically. And probably what our customers think of today based on certain their business, it may not be true in the next week, right? So what is going to happen in agile is that we will try to run quick deliveries through sprints, typically 4 weeks of max project, 4 to 6 weeks of max projects. There are some companies who do weekly delivery. There are some companies who will do every fortnight delivery to the customer. There are some companies who do daily also. Morning they will get a requirement, by evening they will try to deliver. So in those scenarios, how does the testing fits in? How, what you should do and what you should not do? All those things we'll consider. So that's when we discuss the difference between waterfall and agile, you will come to know. And I told you some of the testing methodologies, like typically you might have heard about people talking about black box testing, white box testing, gray box testing. So we'll discuss in one of the session what are those techniques and how it is going to help us. And there are different when you try to test a project, depending on the nature of the project, depending on the requirements that you get for the total project, you will be going about doing different things, like forget about the first one, like unit. It is always done by the development team. But apart from the unit testing, you will be doing so many other type of testings, like integration testing, system testing, functional testing, some of the non-functional testings like load testing, performance testing, usability. You will check the graphical user interface is user friendly or not. Some of the appearance of your application is proper or not. Some of your products or applications may go into different languages through different countries. So you'll do globalization, localization testing. Sometimes you may not have any documentation. You may just join in a company as a test engineer, and your project manager says, hey, welcome to the organization and this is your product. Just go explore and start testing it. So you really don't have any document, any test cases, any information about it. In that case, you will go about doing something very important called exploratory testing. So it's very important. How do you explore? How do you come up with your test cases and etc. And most of the applications in today's world are web applications. So accessibility testing is also something very important. All our applications that we develop should be accessible to all kinds of people, be it a low vision people, blind people, or normal people. all that you're going to take care of it. So throughout all these, it's going to be on a project based, as I said in the beginning. We'll drill down each of this topic more and more in detail. Each of them is going to take, like, writing test cases would take about 2 to 3 sessions. Logging defects would definitely take about 2 sessions. Understanding the SDLC waterfall model would take about a day or two, and then different techniques would be definitely a day or two. So all these we'll understand through an application. Apart from this, and finally, when you come to a situation where you have to say that I'm done with the testing, I've completed my testing, how do you communicate? What is the basis on which you can say you're completed the testing, and what is your sign off criteria? When you should actually stop doing the testing, and how do you send a communication email to the project stakeholder saying, my testing is completed, no more issues exist in the software is of good quality, and it's ready for the user acceptance testing. So how do you do all that? We'll learn how we can prepare a sign off criteria at the end of the testing. Now, apart from all these, there are some more things that I touched upon. We will be looking at it definitely not immediate, in this particular 12 sessions. But again, after that, we will be planning for, other set of things like. Karthik, you wanted to say something? Okay. So other set of things like, Jira. How do we use the tool Jira for creating, user stories or epics? How do you write test cases? How do we log bugs? And then we will also understand things like, how do you actually plan for an automation? Of course, automation is not part of this manual QA plus manual testing, but when you write the test cases, we should write it in such a way that it will help the automation team to easily understand and automate them. And I'm sure some of you would be going for learning the Selenium or qtp through IT-Elearn. So that time it will be very easy for you to understand again what is an automation, whatever the test cases that you have done through QA plus manual training, how it is going to help you to do automation. All those things we will be discussing here. And then we will be clearly understanding what is functional versus non-functional testing. Like I said, we will be covering it on certain things like load testing, performance testing, all those things. So we'll understand a clear demarcation between uh, what is functional and non-functional testing. Even though we'll be discussing so many different techniques, it's not that in every project you will be using all of them. Depending on the type of the project, depending on the nature of the project, depending on the requirements or user stories that you get it in Agile, sometimes only functional testing may be enough. Sometimes you have to do functional plus non-functional testing. Sometimes you will have to do accessibility testing. So depending on the situation, you'll be using it. And clearly, how do you go about writing acceptance criteria, exploratory testing, and we'll quickly introduce some of the exploratory testing that tools that are available in the market, how typically code coverage happens, what is code coverage is all about and why they will be doing it, and some of the important metrics, test metrics that you will be helping your test lead or test manager to look at the overall health of the organization in terms of, like, how many defects per kilo lines of code that we are finding, or what is the test case efficiency that the team is writing the test cases to the best, thinking through all the scenarios, positive, negative, functional, non-functional, how are they doing it. So your lead or manager will be measuring it through certain metrics. So we'll touch upon those metrics, like, test case efficiency, defect removal efficiency. Typically, what is expected out of testing team is that if certain defect got introduced during the requirements, the expectation is that the testing team is able to catch during the requirements itself. That means you will be starting with the project from day one along with the developers. You will be there from the day one till the end of the project. If at all anybody has any misconception that testers will come into project only after coding and after testing of it, they will be, going out of the project. So that is not the case in today's world. At least you are there equally from the developer from the day one till the end of the project, because your thought process, your analysis, everything will help the project in identifying the issues in the requirements itself, or it could be design, or it could be during the coding time, or it could be actually the testing time when you put your actions together for finding the bugs in the system. But you will be there from the day one till the end. So we'll be collecting through different metrics throughout this testing process, which will, will discuss on them, which will help for the organization to understand where the testing is, how the testing, or how the health of the organization in terms of quality. Any technical depths that, in today's world, that you need to come up. For example, I can think of one thing is, any functional test engineer who is going to do the testing should have a basic knowledge of database side also. Why I'm saying all that, because let me just go to, so I just created this folder called QA live training October 15th. In this I will be preparing a document, and through this we'll be continuing our discussion on anything that I will be regularly doing it. It could be any topic that we touch upon, we'll be updating it here, and at the end of the session you will be having the access to the video so that you can revisit it if you have any questions or clarifications, and you can also go through this document uh, anytime that you have questions. So if I just put all these topics that we just discussed, we will be elaborating each topic in our regular sessions. So we'll be discussing each of these topics in detail, and apart from that, let me put these also so that we don't need to revisit this PPT going forward. We can just continue from here. Yeah. So the technical depth that I can tell you at this moment is that most of the people who come and join as a test engineers, they just go about learning the testing concepts, but they really also need to know certain other aspects like database. For example, just doing only typically any project that you can think of in today's world, it will have a minimum of 3-layer architecture. Let me just take it to a, so you will have a one layer typically is your presentation layer, from which you will be accessing, you will be entering all your information. Think of something like a web page, and there will be a middle layer where the actual business logic will be written for any application, and there will be a database. Definitely most of our applications, suppose if you do some registration on any of the application, or you store any customer information, at the end of the day it has to store in some database, so there will be a database. But if you do the testing only from here, that is through UI, it is not sufficient. The reason, because probably you might be getting confirmation that your registration has been successful, or customer information has been saved, etc., etc. But unless you go and connect to this particular database, the database, and if you go into the tables, database tables, and check whether the information is stored correctly in the right database, right tables, etc., it is not going to be a full-fledged testing. So we would expect people, whoever we hire as a test engineers, have some good understanding of what is database is all about, tables all about, how do you query the data from the database. So we'll be discussing throughout our test case writing time and our execution time, how do you write these basic queries to check the data from the database. And you should also understand a little bit about this middle layer technology. You might have heard about some of the technologies like WCF and WPF for the presentation layer. In terms of Microsoft technology, something similar in Java, you will have different technologies. So we'll talk about what is this kind of testing that can happen on the middle layer. You might have heard about something called web services in today's world, right? So what is that web services, or how are we going to do about some of those testings in terms of manual testing. We'll be discussing all that. So this is definitely some of the technical depth that we can see in most of the people that we hire. Having only the testing knowledge is not going to help. You should have a little bit about backend database knowledge, middle layer technologies, which we'll be discussing throughout the course. So what I can definitely say is by end of these 10, 12 sessions, you will be having a complete understanding of what is software testing is all about and what are your roles and responsibilities. And when you been hired as a test engineer, what exactly you're supposed to do through a project and writing those test cases, finding the defects, informing the team, participating in client meetings, participating in defect triage meetings, all that we will experience through a project. So post that, as I said, again, we will be discussing it on the Jira tool, the practical approach of how do we do writing these test cases and etc. in an in a tool, basically repository tool. So this is the overall content, and it is through a project based, not any things that I will be just talking about only concepts and you will not be understanding. It will not be like that. It will all through a project based, and you'll have a clear understanding of what is QA, what is manual testing by end of these sessions. So with this, I want to take it up. Any questions that you have it in your mind at this moment? I can definitely talk about some of the frequently asked questions that I get to hear from various people in different sessions. I can talk about it, but I just wanted to, take some of the questions that you guys have at this moment. Just please put it in the chat so that we can answer it. Just instead of raising hand, just put it in the chat. So along with me, we have my partner Manoj. So he will also be participating in and guiding us wherever it is required. So Manoj, you just want to say hi to the team? And definitely Karthik also will be, coming up in most of the sessions, and he will be giving you some of the tips and tricks on how do you go about a best test engineer in your career. And he has much more experience than me and Manoj. Like I have about 13 years of experience in this field, and currently I work as a senior SDET lead. So in my organization, these kind of designations that they will use something called senior software development engineer in test, and I take care of two programs currently. So that's why it's this SDET lead comes into picture, and most of my tasks will be manual automation with the different tools, and of course as a leader you have to have a 50% leadership activities with your team, ensuring the tasks being allocated to them, ensuring the participating in agile sprint planning discussions, estimations, how they are doing it, all those activities, and 50% hands-on whenever required to do some automation, do the automation, required to do some kind of a manual testing, do the manual testing. So that's my current role. I have about 13 years of experience in the field of software testing.
Hi Shankar, Manoj here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Hey Manoj.
Hi everyone.
So you want to say anything, Manoj?
Nothing much. Mm, for team members, team I have more than 8 years of experience in manual and automation, and yeah, we'll be working with you wherever required. Thank you for joining.
Sure, team. So go ahead and put your questions, anything that you have at this moment about the course or about the topics or anything that you wanted to hear more apart from what I covered with my experience. I do have a training experience of about 10 years so in the field of software testing. So I covered most of the and this is definitely not the traditional way that we used to do 2 years back. It is all through latest agile what it is going to be. So does this training includes a project? So the training itself through a project approach. But again, what we do at IT Learn is that for anything that we do, be it a QA manual training or Selenium or qtp UFT, uh, once we do the complete training, we try to give, we have most of our applications, like, we have uh, IT Learn is associated with the different other partners and business groups. and that particular real projects we try to also give it a hands-on to people who have completed our. So the basic is definitely completing this training, but to put your question, Vandana, it is separate. But in this course also, we are going to do it through a project approach. It is not something that we just talk about, hey, yeah, this is a test case, how do you write? No, we take a project, we try to write it through that. But after completing the course, if you want to get an experience of live project, so typically what happens in live project is that, again, we will have altogether a different process that we, pull in the resources from different parts of the world. You get a chance to work people from different parts of the world. The way real project that happens, uh, you will be completing the project, like, writing the test cases, executing and submitting your defect reports back to the IT learn, and those will be get fixed through one of the development team, and then you will be interacting with those development teams for any of the issues, as if like a real project goes. But that's definitely altogether a separate one, which we try to do at the end of every training. Like after we complete QLI training, you'll have QLI project. After completing Selenium training, you'll have Selenium project. QTP project after the training. Okay. So Danya says, I'm currently enrolled in Selenium training. Will the timing clash with Selenium training? So this is the timing for QA live training. This is the time, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. PDT or PST. This is the time that we're going to do it. Okay, VAT says how much coding part will be here in testing. So as it says, Watson, this is all about QA plus manual testing. So I can tell you coding part will be zero here. That much I can say, because there are two parts to it, right? So whole software testing itself happens through manual as well as through automation, right? So if you look at the overall testing, that you can divide into manual and automation. If you wanted to work only on manual, okay, and that too in a black box model, okay, black box testing approach, we will be discussing what is this black box, white box more in detail, but I can tell you at this moment, typically what happens in black box testing approach is, whatever the application that is being developed in any technology, be it Microsoft .NET technology or SharePoint technology, or it is Java, whatever the technology or whatever the middle tier logic or whatever the database, you're not going to really bother about in which technology it is developed. You're not going to test anything through the code. All you will be doing is consider it as a black box. So what happens in a, if you have a black box in front of you, you cannot really see any internal details within the box. It's completely dark and shaded. You cannot really see. That's exactly. So software for you is a black box, but you will be going about testing it like a customer. If a customer use this software, what are all the things he would do? For example, you can think of any software in front of you right now. For example, you're all joined through GoToMeeting. Think this GoToMeeting as a software, and if you're going to test about this one, what are the different scenarios you're going to do? Typically, the first thing that starts as like, preparing a meeting request itself, right? Creating a meeting itself and sending it to different people through an email, and people join through that link, and then we should be able to talk to each other. We should be able to share the screen. We should be able to record these sessions for future references. And throughout these, there are some drawing tools, and there are some video sharing, audio sharing, and all that are available. So without really in which language this is developed, or what is a platform on which it is developed, you are going to test like a real user. Today you and me are real user of using this GoToMeeting software, but the team who tested this, right, team who tested this in that particular organization, they might have thought through all these which you and me are doing today when they're actually developing the project and testing the project, and the test team might have already tested all through this before it being released to lakhs of people in the world. So that's exactly you're going to do. So in a way, you're not going to do any coding here during the manual testing with black box testing approach. but some companies in some projects you may be doing manual testing, but I would say it's a very hardly less percentage, is something called a white box testing, or there's another type called gray box testing that comes in between. There you would need little bit of programming knowledge. The reason, because not really a little bit, you should definitely have a good amount of knowledge. For example, if a project is developed in Java, you will go through the Java code that is written by another developer and trying to find out the loopholes in that code. So you should be very good at Java language itself if the project is developed in Java. So typically who fits in those kind of scenarios is people with a development background, actually can do the better job of white box testing with manual testing. Definitely not somebody without a programming knowledge. If you join, you may not be able to do that white box testing. But let me tell you, the percentage of jobs that you see in the market is pretty much 70, or even I would say 80% of the jobs are a black box with manual testing. And the remaining is what you see is 20% of the jobs which are on white box or gray box testing. I think I answered your question. Who asked that was VATS, right? So during this one, definitely no programming skills are required. But yes, when you go, the moment, even though black box testing, if you go to automation, I think that's what you have already experienced, and that's why you're asking this question. The moment you go to automation testing, even if it is a black box methodology, you would need some programming language of that tool. For example, if you are using UFT, then you may be using some VB script or JavaScript program. If you are using Selenium, then you would be using some kind of a Java program. So that's when the programming knowledge is required. But as long as you're going to do manual plus black box testing, it's absolutely not required. Okay, there are other questions like in this, is this going to be every day? Yeah, every day same time, Syed, as I told you, 6 to 7 PST. What is the language do we need to learn in manual testing? I think Shobi, I just answered the same question. So absolutely no language you're going to learn here. Manual testing is manual. You will be doing it. Nothing is automated here. So all that you need is some of the knowledge on how do you do the testing, how do you think through some of the negative scenarios, positive scenarios. For that, how do you write test cases? How do you go about executing them? So that kind of a skills you're going to learn here, not really any programming as such. Would you recommend to join the training after we watch all QA videos, or live training videos will be same videos? See, parallelly, all the members who join for the live training plus videos, you will be getting an access to videos. My suggestion is not definitely, if you get some time today and tomorrow, definitely go watch them if you have already got the access and everything, because those are some of the SDLC models, some of the concepts are covered by Karthik in through those videos. And you will get another perspective from my side on this live training. So it will be like a two parts of it. You can definitely, it's an added advantage, but it is not definitely mandatory. I will be telling you whenever it is required to go through them, you can go through, but if you have time, my suggestion is just go ahead and do it. Yeah. Matt says I worked in automation industry, so I asked these questions. Okay, perfect. What are bug tracking tools will be covered? If you already addressed, I might have no. So what we are going to do is the first 10 sessions will be all through manual writing test cases, bugs, and everything is through Excel. The next session we will be covering it on Jira. Jira. That's where again we will be discussing on how to write test cases and log defects and everything through Jira too. But people who join for QA live training through IT-Elearn, we already have some videos. So the approach is like, videos plus live training. So some of the videos that we have it on Bugzilla will be sharing with you, and you can do that. But I'm, as I said, I will be covering it on Jira. So it will be like Jira plus Bugzilla plus manual testing. How much SQL do we need to know? I will be, I mean, you need to have some fundamentals of how do you query it from a table, how do you write some join queries to retrieve it from the table, etc. Some of the basics that you should definitely know. Do you have placement help? What would you suggest for someone switching from non-IT with a zero experience? So let me address the second part of the question first. Switching it from a non-IT to IT. Most of the people, if you see in the field of software testing, and that's definitely one of the trigger point why you are here, I'm sure. But most of the people, if you see in the software industry with respect to testing, if you ask me, for example, let's say there is an application related to a financial domain related application. Uh, People who do the testing of this should have a good amount of finance domain. And in my view, who can do a better job for testing of that application, be it a computer science graduate or be it a financial domain? Uh, Definitely, at the moment, we can definitely say that, of course, financial domain expert, somebody has an experience in financial domain, core financial domain, may not have to the computer knowledge like a CSC graduate, computer science graduate, but he can do a better job because he has a domain knowledge of that particular thing. So here the understanding of the application, understanding of the business is much important to do the testing rather than you come from an IT background or a non-IT background. And today's world, everybody is using softwares in day-to-day life, so you won't really see a difference. So that is the second part of the question. Definitely IT, non-IT is not going to be really matter at all, because you need to have a good attitude to the testing, something we call it as a test to, break the software, identify all the problems in the software. So that kind of skills you need to have. Placements, yes. So we do have a placement, a different wing altogether. I will be sharing you that communication email. Post your course completion, preparation of the resume and all that. You can send it to them. But when I say yes and no, it's like you should understand it properly. We have a separate wing, but it doesn't mean that everybody who gets trained through here will be placed through this Ideal, and that's not the idea. We have a placement wing definitely, and which will help you after the course, and you gain the knowledge and everything. I will be sharing the email ID that you can send it out based on the requirements that do we get, and based on the knowledge match that you will have with that particular corresponding requirement, things may work out. But I cannot definitely promise anything that everybody who joins in this course will get a job or will be placed. But IT-Learn does has a tie-up with different companies. Placement wing is separate, is there. I will be sharing you that email, and that you can send it out. It not sound to be. I heard sound of business on so many time. Could you? Sorry, buses on. Okay, okay, okay. Shobi, I will try to fix that. So I sit in a very downtime kind of a place in India and close to all these things. I will try to fix that. So not getting to use to quality control. Can you elaborate more on that, Abbas? Like not going to use quality control. No, so we will be discussing in one of the session what is quality assurance and quality control, where does the testing fits in and everything. I use enterprise tester ET for testing, and yes, Jira and Wiki for requirement, unit regression testing, any good things testing tool that you would recommend. Regression UAT regression testing. So Syed, if I understand correctly, you are looking for some tool on UAT and regression testing. Is that correct? Any certification will be provided to us from your company at the end of the session? Yes. Um, Manoj, you want to take that question?
Yeah, sure, Shankar. Will provide certificate of completion of training. So once you complete any training, like this training, QA live QA training, and so we'll provide the certificate if you're not going to continue. Means if you're not going to continue with any other courses. Uh, so at the end of the course, we'll provide the certificates for sure.
So basically, his point of view is that who will be there throughout the course, we would know, right? So on a day-to-day basis, who is joining, who's not joining, etc. People who especially signed up for a live and video-based training, please try to attend. We understand a day or two, everybody will have some urgencies, personal, or official works. We all work. So in that time you will go through videos, but most of the time we know who attended most of the sessions. So that's what is point that we will be giving the certificates to them. Certificates are only for live students or also for video-based students. Okay, so please do take it offline. I will give you the email ID of Manoj, manoj@itlearn.com basically, or you can write to me, shankar@itlearn.com. Shouldn't be really a problem because, but only thing, if you just got access to video, what is a guarantee that you are going through those videos? And IT Learn has certain image and brand in the market, and if you tell them that he or she has completed the training, and if you really have not gone through I'm just talking about scenario, Durga, it's not just about you, but things can turn out in a badly, right? So we do definitely do some kind of a check, knowledge check, and then we would try to give you. So is this course or cover the ISTQB foundation level? I will be touching upon some of the techniques, but that course itself altogether, is a big course. Again, I will be covering that in ITE Learn itself. I will be dealing with that ISTQB foundation level. But I can help you, Shobha, if you wanted to appear for an exam. I will be giving you some of the questions at the end of the topic, but it is not for the preparing for an ISTQB foundation level. I would definitely say you need to spend some good amount of time preparing for that particular thing separately. So probably post this live training, let me know if you are interested to go through. You can get the access for the videos through our process, whatever it is, or you want to go through the ISTQB training, that is upcoming training, which is going to happen very soon. I don't have date at this moment, but you can go. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the topics will be definitely covered, but when you prepare anything, that you have to prepare specifically for it, so then you will be able to achieve it. So let's see how it goes. I can give you some of the frequently asked questions through ISTQB. If that helps, that is fine, but my recommendation is see if you can take that as a separate. Team, any other questions that you have? Yes, so I will be giving the soft copies of some of the PPTs of software development life cycles, or some of the different testing techniques, etc. But majorly what happens is all these videos will be available to you as an access through website. So you need to log into the website and go through them whenever you have questions. So for the next class sessions and all, you all received, after you register, you all will get an email that will have the complete schedule for this course. And if I am not wrong, it will be on 19th is when our first session will be. And yeah, considering the weekend, so 19th is the first session, 20th will be the second session, and then there onwards we'll take it up. Fine, team, any other questions that you guys have at this moment about the course, about the content, about me, about IT Learn? Like some of you have asked about some of those certifications, etc., which are definitely relevant for this. You will be teaching the whole course. Yes, so if you still not get the complete introduction, yes, I will be dealing that. Manoj will be helping wherever it is required. Karthik will definitely join in most of the sessions and give tips and tricks about, or give his experience of how you can be the best software test engineer, what things that you should do, what you should not do in the industry. Some of the topics like, those things, challenges that you face, he will touch upon some of them and how do you overcome. But majority of the course you can definitely say on my name. So my name is Shankar. I have 13 years of experience in software testing and about 10 years of experience in teaching software testing course, ISTQB, Selenium, UFT, ALM, Jira. So those are all the things that I've been teaching for all these 10 years. And definitely anything that we start, it starts with a manual testing. So what we are currently doing is the fundamental thing that I started about 10 years back. So that's the one. But yes, to answer your question, all the topics majorly I will be dealing it, and Karthik did it previously. Those videos access will be given to you. So in a way, you will get two perspectives. So you will also be getting the access to those videos, all the QA videos that Karthik has done previously. Both of them will be there for you. Okay. Any other questions that you guys have at this moment? All right. So if there are no other questions, what happens is that post this. Okay. Can you see my question? Sorry, Premal, I missed. I think. Let me just go back and see what is your question. When a lot of questions coming up, sometimes it do happen. But yeah. So do you have placement in Canada? See, for IT Learn, the major market is through US and Canada, no doubt about that. And we are also into other parts of it like Australia and other stuff. So the placement wing that I told you is majorly in US and Canada. But again, please, whoever raising these questions on the placement, please be clear. It is altogether a separate wing. Just by doing this course, that please do not assume that you will be placed or anything like that. We will be helping you. We will be giving you email ID of that placement wing. It is done head by one of our Indian head called Sandeep, and of course Manoj is also part of it. So you will be getting an email ID of them through which you can send your email post the course. Definitely one of our technical team will screen through it, like they will be conducting some interviews, 1 or 2 rounds of interviews. Once they are confident that you have the corresponding knowledge, and those requirement comes for manual testing, Selenium, IT, the UFT, etc., etc., these profiles will be forwarded to them. So in a way, we will be kind of a mediator between the company requirements and the students, that we train them with the kind of latest and greatest knowledge or the trends that we have in the software fielding. So most of the clients, how they came is by looking at our training, course contents, etc. So that's how it is going to help you. Can you please confirm the date for online sessions are starting? It is on 19th. Today is a orientation, and starting from 19th, we will be having it. Can you see my question, Hari? Okay, what is that question? Is a live project training completely different from this current live? Yes. So what happens is, in live training, I will be talking through most of these topics, and you will be interacting with me on based on the questions, etc., etc. That is about typically the training part of it. Live project is something we will tell you in the first session what is a project, who is a client, and what are their expectations, etc., etc. Rest of the sessions you will be participating majorly in doing that project. Me and Manoj, Karthik will come twice in a week to understand what is your status, to write you, provide you in the direction if you are blocked. So that kind of activities happens in live project. So it's altogether different. Are you going to use the agile process for live project like 1 week?
Shankar,
Yeah.
we have to stop this
Okay.
because there's just random live training.
Okay. Okay. So what I say is that altogether a different approach. So please, what we can do, I will be creating one Q&A document in this Google Drive, and will be sharing with you. Please post your questions. We'll be taking up those things as the first thing on 19th when we come back, and then we'll move ahead with the other topics. So looks like there is other training lined up by Karthik on Selenium or UFT. I'm not really sure. So we should leave this at this moment. So thanks team, wherever you are from, for joining the session. See you on 19th.